Hey folks, welcome back for round 2 of the 1955 F1 season here, obviously from the streets of Monaco for the Monaco Grand Prix, second round of the championship, coming out of the Argentine Grand Prix where we had quite a dramatic race, ending up finishing 5th somehow and actually getting points, but having a difficult race and then ultimately having that accident at the end with our teammates. So hoping for something a little better here, but I think it's going to be a very challenging event with it being Monaco and it being the 1955 Grand Prix cars. Through practice was definitely difficult, and anticipating much of the same for the race. So we'll be doing a difficult race here. Want to talk, I guess, a little bit about the real Grand Prix, won actually by our friend Trinchino, the same guy that we crashed into in the last Grand Prix. So he actually won this race, and it seems like it was a race of attrition, both the Mercedes bowing out to mechanical trouble, I think first Fangio and then Moss, and then Ascari actually leading the race for a while and crashing into the bay, or into the harbor, in his Lancia. So I guess one of a couple guys to actually do that during the history of this race, and crashing out, which led Trinchino to win. And he actually won in the Ferrari 625, which we are driving. So I guess that bodes well, and if history is on our side, we will do pretty well. I'll take a quick look here at the schedule and the points championship so far. So obviously, second round of the championship, still 9 rounds to go. And one thing I guess I didn't mention in the first race, you only score the top 5 events of the season, and that seems to be true for like the 1954 and 1955 season, even with the limited schedule they had. So we'll only be scoring the top 5 events for each driver, which gives us a little bit of leeway, I guess, to have a few blunders in there, but try to do better and better each race. If a 5th place finish would be our worst, we would set up to do pretty well in the championship. I have a feeling Fangio is going to be really difficult to beat. So obviously with the championship leaderboard, Fangio up top after that win. He's got 9 points because he also got fastest lap. Alberto Ascari right behind him, Sterling Moss in 3rd, Jose Gonzalez in 4th, and Richard Axelson, myself, down in 5th position with 2 points at least. So be looking to improve on that, but it's going to be a very difficult one today. It's worth mentioning as well, this would have been Ascari's final Grand Prix, unfortunately having died a few days later, really, in a sports car accident. So after flying into the bay here, going to test a sports car and it not working out for him, ultimately a very sad end to a great career, but he'll be joining us for the rest of the season as well, as we work through the rest of these remaining events. So let's take a quick look here at the track. Of course, Monaco, very familiar, really the same track as they raced in the 60s as well, maybe a few less barriers and things, but it's been modeled really nicely here, an updated version of the circuit to kind of fit the 50s theme. We'll be racing the more accurate chicane version as well, so actually have to brake going down into that chicane. Quite scary all the time as well, but same layout you're all familiar with. Obviously no swimming pool section. Biggest difference being, although this track fits the 50s quite well, they actually did start on the harbor side back in the 50s, and I guess there's just some major issues getting the AI cars to work through the final hairpin on the opening lap. So opting to do the traditional 60s starting grid, being the only real difference here to how it would have been back in 1955, but hopefully all can forgive that. So be doing 30 laps around this track. Real Grand Prix was 100 laps. I cannot even imagine doing that in these cars. I've done it before a few times in the 67 cars, but never in the 55s. It would be unbelievably difficult. It seems as though even touching the curb once, the curbing once would throw the tires off. I've had it happen a few times in practice, so you have to be very, very careful with the cars here. Let's take a look at the starting grid. Fangio starting on the pole. I think that's going to be the theme here. Starting on the pole, Sterling Moss behind him, Ascari rounding out that front row, 3 wide. I'm starting all the way back in 13th. I tried as hard as I could to get a good time. I think I could reasonably get down in the 43s, maybe, definitely 44s if I put a perfect lap together. But this one's going to be very difficult. I'm hoping for some attrition, some lapped cars to throw some things into the mix, and a good start here to hopefully pick up a couple positions. But I think this is going to be a very hard points race today. But leaving the AI on the difficulty they were on for Buenos Aires, so we'll have to see what happens. Take a quick look over too at the car setup since I've been doing that. I downed the steering ratio even a bit further so I can actually make it around these hairpins. So going from 12-1 to 8-1. So really sensitive steering, but it's what's needed to run. And if anybody's curious, I am running 320 degrees lock on the steering wheel. So Grand Prix Legends really doesn't support more than that. It's unfortunate they don't allow 900 degrees to be accurately represented, but 320 on the steering wheel, 8-1 steering ratio gets us around the track just fine. Actual suspension and tire setup is pretty much the same as the last Grand Prix. Fuel, of course, slightly different, and I really changed the gearing for this track. Changing it to actually use all 5 gears. I tried a 4-gear setup for a while, but it just led to some awkward shifting moments, and since the brakes are such an issue here, really needed all 5 gears to help with the engine braking. So I'll have to try to rely on the engine as much as I can to brake the car and save the brakes for passing opportunities, I think is how it's going to have to work. So enough talking for me. Why don't we get started with the 1955 Monaco Grand Prix. All right, on the grid here, beautiful Monaco. We've got a bunch of cars in front and a couple Maseratis to my inside. Flag is up, down, we're underway. Getting it up into second gear, but gonna get stuck behind this streamlined Mercedes, giving him a little bit of a tap there. And that's not something I want to be doing going down the opening straightaway. But making it successfully up the outside. I got one car to the inside, I believe, and able to clear him, as now we'll work up towards Massino, down into 4th gear, down into 3rd. Streamlined Mercedes in front, taking a ton of space up. Not sure they would have actually raced that car at this circuit. Through Casino now, back on the throttle, over the hump into Mirabeau, down into 1st gear, taking it very easy here with the cold tires. It's just going to be a struggle this whole Grand Prix as to where to pass, folks. And making it through that very tight hairpin now. Through the final couple of tight corners here before we get onto that tunnel straight. Oh, I'm just tapping the inside curb. Really want to avoid doing stuff like that. Cars do not like touching anything at all, these tiny tires and delicate suspensions. Working now though towards the chicane, downshift it into 3rd, get in line here. First lap, weave through the chicane. Getting through there awful nice, maybe able to pass this Mercedes as we head into Tabak, down into 2nd gear, using the brakes a lot there. Oh, and I think the Mercedes running wide behind me, but able to make that work. Making a pass on our opening lap, taking advantage when we can. Now we'll work into the hairpin to complete our first lap. Getting it nicely accelerated out of there. So passing a couple cars here on the opening lap of the Monaco Grand Prix. I think no other word other than physical to describe this racetrack in these cars. Sliding through Sandovo nicely there, up the hill. Work around Massino. This corner giving me a lot of trouble through practice. There's a fine balance to hitting the throttle to turn the car versus just sliding. Alrighty. We got Nino Farina in front of us in our teammate Ferrari. Try to avoid any kind of incidents here Seeing the Axelsons have a future in hitting Ferraris. And a past, I guess, at this point. Sliding a bit there through the tunnel. There is some nice oversteer you can get in these cars, predictable. Threading the needle there through the chicane. Really using that engine to help slow the car down. Want to keep those brakes as happy as possible. I've found in practice, just after 2 or 3 laps, the brakes are absolutely shot. Final hairpin corner here. Trying to get a nice wide line through there. Keep the speed up as much as possible. And down into 3rd gear for Sandoval. Flying up the hill. Spectators right on the edge of the circuit. Unreal. Not wanting to make the turn this time around, and then sliding into Casino. Wow. So I'll have to hope here, as the tires come up to temperature, that I've got something for Ferrari and some of the others in front, because I'm definitely nowhere near the points just yet. I'll have to check the pit board this time around. But need to settle into some kind of groove here. It's going to be a pretty long Grand Prix, 30 laps around the tricky Monaco streets. Third gear through the chicane. Always, every single time, feels no matter what, it's sketchy getting through there. Through Tabak. I feel like I'm holding pretty much station here with the cars in front, hoping they start battling a bit and I can catch up to them. And we'll come to the end of the lap. P9, so having picked up a few positions, P9 but 27 to go. Some decent laps here, but definitely having to leave a little bit on the table to make sure I'm actually completing the lap without hitting anything at all. Over the humps, directly over it. For all of these corners, shifting up to 2nd, then back down to 1st, then up to 2nd, back to 1st again. Just a lot of shifting in the car. I thought the 4-gear setup might be better, but just not able to slow the car down enough, really. You gotta ride those engine RPMs, and it feels like after 60 or 6,000 RPM on the gauge there, that the car just doesn't benefit anymore from the engine braking or turning, so really need those high RPMs to make it work. And you can already see my brakes in the yellow range. Oh, and coming a little hot into Tabak there. But maybe on this lap picking up a tiny bit of distance on Ferrari. On the brakes, already gone. If anybody's able to actually drive around this circuit with the brakes not fading completely, I would love to learn the secrets. But gonna try to make it work as best we can here. Coming through Massino now. getting a decent line through Casino there. And Ferrari looking up the inside to that Lancia in front. That's what I want. Having to use the brakes quite a bit into the hairpin. Getting a best run we can now through the tunnel. Can take this flat out if you get the line right. And slide the car just a little bit, but definitely don't want to hit that curbing on the outside. Thread the needle here through the chicane. Through Tabak. And again to the end of the lap. Oh, and the car getting very upset there. Literally no brakes in the car. I guess that's the story of the 55 cars. They just really don't have brakes. Nicely around Massino there. Just playing like there's an egg under the throttle pedal. That's really how you have to do it. There's so many gear shifts, feel like I'm playing the clutch pedal just as much as the accelerator sometimes. Definitely picking up a little bit on Ferrari here. Over the hill, third gear, thread that needle. The car does feel slightly odd. I'm wondering if my slight touch there on the curbing threw something off a little bit. It's definitely drivable, but I feel like I'm turning to the left a strange amount. It's crazy how sensitive the cars are. I'm sure that's pretty accurate. These cars are very fragile if you look at any of the Grand Prix. And saying that, I think I just touched the inside of the wall there in the hairpin, which is not good. Hoping the car is fine. It seems to be turning to the right fine. We'll find out when we get to Massino here. If we can turn to the left. Seems like we can still corner all right. Very, very difficult. Still picking up some speed here on Ferrari, picking up some distance, closing in on him as much as I can. Getting around him will be quite a different story, a different challenge. Not sure where I'm going to be able to pass. I did make that pass on the Mercedes coming out of the chicane. That's always a hope. Oh, I'm not able to get a good line through that corner this time. Through the tunnel, down third gear again, thread the needle. I'm really going to have to benefit from some of the lapped cars if I can get around them. And as we saw in the last Grand Prix, that's the big question, isn't it? Another lap. I'll have to check the pit board next time by. I try not to do it too often. So better just to bust out the laps as best you can. Feeling like we're getting into this Grand Prix and not having made too many moves just yet. And can see Ferrari now through this hairpin. Oh, and just touching that curbing up the inside. And on the exit. The camber on my wheels probably going every which way by now. A little hot into its back, really pushing as much as I can. If it doesn't look like it, pushing really hard to try to get up here to Ferrari. Having to ride that engine to slow the car down. It works quite well, you just have to shift very aggressively. Oh, and hitting the inside there as I'm looking at my pit board. That was a tougher hit. That was a harder hit on the barrier there. Might have gotten away with it. But definitely losing a bit of time on Ferrari. Sure if you can hear my shifting, but very frantically busting through the gears, almost like a modern F1 car. Again, not sure how you would have driven this circuit in real life. Probably a lot more calmly than I'm doing it here. So again, thinking I made it through that little incident with the wall. Don't need anything like that. It's definitely not helping the car if it's also hurting it a little bit. Might all be in my head though. Keeping up some pretty good speed through the chicane that time. Found in practice I can pick up a half second by really getting that chicane correct. Try to slide it in and not come too close to that inside wall and slide it out, giving a show to all those spectators for sure. Oh, and sliding through Sandoval there, taking that rain line through the corner. Into Mirabel first gear corner. Tried that one in second gear because I immediately shift up to second again before the hairpin, but the car doesn't like to turn these tight corners in second gear, so all three of these corners having to shift to second, then to first, then to second, then to first. If you hear some grind gears later, you'll know why. Actually surprised I haven't missed a shift yet. We will get better at it throughout the season. Working towards Tabak. Just keeping a nice distance here on Ferrari, but I swear I'm trying as hard as I can to catch him. little more tidy this time through the final hairpin. Still getting tons of oversteer coming out, almost opposite lock there, coming out of the corner. I'm just dreaming of those long straightaways at Spa. Right now, after these first two Grand Prix, I feel like we've been racing inside a sardine can. But there are some much quicker open tracks to come. Spa, the Nürburgring, Bremgarten. That's a cool track. Have not raced really too much at. Even a Zandvoort would be much welcomed. Right through a few of those corners, stamping it down in second gear there. Not able to keep it flat. Whew, getting so close to that outside curbing, and I know that one hurts the car. I'm feeling very much as though I need some lap traffic to get in the way. See if I can actually catch up to some of these guys. Another lap. Over third distance now for sure. See some cars there. And they're going through the harbor, so we are slowly catching the end of the field. Have no pressure from behind though. So pretty securely feeling in the 9th position, but that's nowhere near the points. Need to get into the top 5 to get some points. Which, like I said at the start, not sure I have it in me for today. Slowly through the hairpin there. Getting a solid run now through the tunnel. I'll put it into first gear there, trying to slow the car down for Tabak. That's why it's nice to have the 5 gears, having an extra gear there in case I overcook it a little bit. Laps to go, still P9. Definitely having lost some time on Ferrari now. This might be one long hot lap session, folks. We're going to see what happens. Slowly through these corners, down into first gear. And this track is so much more physical in these cars. I thought it was hard in the 67s, but it is absolutely crazy driving these cars. If anybody's not done it yet, and it's insane that it's just a mod on the same game. Gives you such a different experience. And there it is, losing first gear. Or not losing it, but missing it for sure. Well, I went how many laps? 13 laps before that happened this time. The Ferrari mechanics won't like changing my gearbox. I'm sure that would just obliterate the gears in real life. Just have to keep the car as snug onto that curbing as possible, right up into those hay bales. I'm doing all right on the brakes here, keeping them in the yellow range, maybe dabbed into the red for these hairpins. I'm not taking that hairpin so good this time by. Really losing sight of Ferrari ahead. Just not able to keep the pace with some of these other cars. I have done this track in the Mercedes, and this car is definitely quite a bit slower than the Mercedes through tight circuits like this. So I'll be looking forward to Spa, where I think this car will actually be pretty competitive. But much more of the circuits will be faster and more wide open reams, where we'll go in France. Very fast track. Monza, of course, will be the 10K layout with the big oval. Should be very exciting. Wow, and getting a nice slide actually that time through the hairpin. Down into third gear. Feeling we're even a bit too far back now for lap traffic to help me out with Ferrari. Actually putting it up into third there for some reason. Not what I needed to do. Caused me to run wide through the hairpin. And getting a ton of oversteer there. Flat out through the tunnel. That's something you can't do in the 60s cars. They're definitely going quite a bit slower in these machines. You know, it's not the straight line speed even as much that's slower. It's the cornering that you just have to take at a crawl in these cars. Through the final hairpin. Of security guards standing right on the edge of the track, making sure it's safe for everybody, I guess. Oh, and there's a gaggle of cars ahead, so finally catching up to some lap traffic. It's either going to be really good or really bad for me. We'll have to see this time. The issue is some of these places on the track, even if you're much quicker than a car, there's just no way around them. You have to take the lines so particular to keep up your speed. Looks like Ferrari is being held up though. I'm sure he'll get around a couple here as we get onto the faster part of the circuit through the bay, through the harbor. Wow. Tons of oversteer. Just having to let off the throttle slightly, but really closing in on Ferrari now. Oh, I might actually be able to make a move here. Looks like the Lancia that's up in front of us was able to get around these slower cars. And there we go. Liking to play games, I guess. Some of these slower guys. And closing right in on him now. So it's Ferrari Maserati in front. Maserati's an absolutely beautiful car. Through Massino, right on the back of Ferrari. Making a move up the inside. Wow, through Mirabeau. Play it very easy here to make sure I don't do something silly again. Not getting the best exit out of there. Coming up to the chicane. Whoa. Missing a couple of my gears there, but able to get the car slowed down. Now accelerate out of the chicane, get up the inside of this lapped car. I believe he's lapped. Maybe not. And missing my gear there, somehow keeping it out of the wall. No brakes. When you do miss the gear, the engine just goes to 0 RPM. And spinning the car out. Not sure what's going on there. Totally losing my cool. And now stuck behind one of the slower lapped cars again. Wow. Not sure what happened. Getting awful close to those spectators. I think I tapped the wall pretty hard, but straight on the nose. Hopefully the water temperature doesn't skyrocket. I'm pretty sure the water gauge is the one under my left hand. Really throwing away an opportunity there to make up what could have been my only positions during this Grand Prix. Slow down now, try to take a few of these corners a little easier. I'm not sure if this car in front is a lap down or not. He fought back pretty hard, and that's what really screwed everything up for me. Not anticipating him. Of course, I missed 5 gear shifts or something within a few corners. P9 still with 12 laps to go. This might be one for survival. bad line through the hairpin. Getting up on the curbing there, that should be okay though. Want to keep it flat through there, but just not able to do it. See who's in front of me, because I know Nino's still in front of this Maserati. If this Maserati is a different driver, or if I see on my pit board a different driver in front, I'll know this Maserati is actually for position, which I'm thinking pace-wise seems likely. Yes, and definitely not Nino Ferrini in front of me, so I was going for position. Could have potentially gotten up into 7th position or something if I'd made those few lapped cars work for me. Could've, should've, would've, all words that don't work in auto racing. Tightly through the hairpin again. It through another lap, just trying to concentrate as much as I can. Gear shifts, hitting my lines. The car is getting a little lighter now. It's slightly easier to throw around the corners, but so is everybody else's. I'm definitely satisfied in my brake usage, using that engine just enough to keep the brakes nice for when I actually need them, for when I make a mistake or try to pass another car, although that didn't work out as well as I would have hoped. Just not getting a good line through that hairpin. I could probably get on the gas a little sooner through some of these corners. Some more traffic ahead. This is going to make the last few laps pretty interesting, I imagine. Looks like maybe just one car, a few of the guys in front of me. Getting stacked up through the hairpin. And it looks like Ferrini getting ahead of that Lancia that we've been chasing. Might be one of the van walls there. I'm catching straight up here to the Maserati, but nowhere to go coming up the hill through Massino. Masseno, Casino, Mirabeau. See the theme here with the corners. Something about being around other cars has me miss gears. As the Maserati getting slowed down a bit and able to get around, although taking this hairpin awful wide. He's going to try to go up the inside and spins me out. That, I'm going to say, is on him. Have to figure out who this driver is now. Every race having some kind of conflict with somebody. Luckily, the car is feeling okay. It was a slow speed incident. But not happy about that one. I definitely had the position on him. You can't pass going through that hairpin. Now, check my pit board here. 8 laps to go. Still P9. No attrition up front. I'm just figuring at least a couple of the cars would have fallen out. Through Masseno. Easy corner to overcook it in, especially if you come from driving the 60s cars into one of these guys. Just not much grip there. You thought the 60s cars had low grip. Try one of these. It's more the weight than anything. Oddly enough, these cars feel less suited for this circuit than the 65s do. Those cars actually have a little bit of fun around here. Let me past. All right. Holding a line, something I haven't seen from a lot of the slower drivers. Oh, getting a little squirrely there through the chicane. Still able to make it work though. Late in the Grand Prix, do not want to throw it all away now. No points on the line, but pride for actually finishing. Definitely feeling it now. This has been quite the Grand Prix so far. Not clean, and I hate when it's not a clean race, but I think that would be very, very difficult around here in these cars, at least for me. If any of you out there are able to do this, definitely have some respect. Getting up on the curbing just a little bit, taking kind of an odd line now. Shifting through the gears. Can't believe I got spun out there. I knew that was going to happen too. I was trying to hit the gas to stay a little bit ahead of him. But I saw him try to rush up the inside as I was slightly wide through the turn. See what others think of that. Doesn't feel like my fault, that one. That one. I know there's been plenty that I've caused, but this is the point in the Grand Prix where just wonder how many laps are left and how you're gonna do another, 6 laps now? the announcer, if you can hear that over the engine noise, as I slow down, the RPMs go down. It's great effect at this track. Through the tunnel, always have fun driving that corner. Might be my favorite corner on the track, followed by my least favorite, the chicane. Still setting, in my opinion, some pretty decent laps. No, they're not record-breaking, but this late in the Grand Prix, I'll have to analyze what I'm doing when I'm getting close to another car that's making me miss so many shifts. That's definitely a preventable mistake on my part. Getting spun out in the hairpin, maybe not. Missing so many shifts when passing cars can definitely work on. I feel like I actually did pretty good through the hairpin that time. Really how these cars feel whenever you're on the gas. They feel like they want to topple over. And you really have to steer from the back of the car, it feels like. And I guess that's true since we are sitting pretty far behind the engine. Overcooking it a little bit into Tabak. But not too bad making it through. Into the hairpin. Not many laps to go now. Just 4 more laps. Still P9. Not a great showing here. Picked up those few spots right on the start, first lap. Had an opportunity to maybe get up to P7, but not my most competitive race. I do feel like I'm driving my heart out. Fangio most likely going to come away with another win, although I don't know who's in the lead. And I don't believe I have any hope of setting fast lap or anything. Dance the car coming out of there. Through the chicane while having to correct it a little bit. Wasn't going to get the right line, but somehow made it work. Just 3 laps to go, counting them down here. And we're resigned myself to this 9th position. I don't think there's any hope of catching this Maserati unless there's another lapped car on the way. But that has not worked out for me thus far. Headed through Casino. It's a great feeling when you get that corner right. It's crazy to think F1 cars still race around pretty much the same track. Maybe at the end of the lap is a little bit different, but all of this is the same. Track must be a little bit wider. These cars are pretty skinny. It feels tight. There is another lapped car ahead. To see if our friend up here can get around him successfully, or if we're gonna have one more shot at this. Does get around him, so now it's just me that's gonna have to negotiate this one lapped car. Flashbacks to the last Grand Prix. Don't want things to end up the way they did there. Take my time for sure here. Sandovo's another fun corner if you can get it right. I have more fun there though in the 60s cars. Pretty much every corner in these cars is a workout. Into the hairpin, running very wide. I think the wheel lock still being a problem through there, to be honest. And this car here not giving me a good line. Come on. Have to wait out through the hairpin or the chicane here. Losing a ton of time now, but just with so few laps left, not worth doing anything silly. Thank you for swerving in front of me again. And that's one car I haven't yet tried out with this mod, is the van wall. Would be fun to try out. In the next couple of Grand Prix seasons, I believe the van wall would become the car to have, actually, once Mercedes dropped out at the end of this season. Through Casino, over the hump, down into first gear. Not missing the hairpin there, finally. Oh, a sign of a yellow flag. Was interesting. Quick wave of the yellow, but maybe a quick incident that was cleaned up. We'll have to see. Taking a little more tentatively over the hill here. Don't know if there's going to be a spun out car in front of me or not. All looks clear. Down into second gear. The line to finish the Monaco Grand Prix, and my, what a crazy race that was. Probably wasn't the most interesting race I've done from a video standpoint, but hope folks enjoyed watching that. It was definitely a difficult one on this side of things. Just really difficult wrestling these cars around here. It's a very physical race, very physical track, really. Wave to the crowd. Actually, we'll have to wave to them down in the hairpin. I'm sure they enjoyed my little loop in the car there. Let this van wall by. But just not the race where I was going to earn points, I guess. But I'm happy I made it through the race, albeit with a couple incidents. Nothing that took me out. And so easy to actually bend the suspension and things at this track that pretty impressed that I didn't take myself out at some point. Let the streamliner go by. Passed him, though, on the first lap there. Made a pretty good pass, in my opinion. Capitalizing on the first lap. Come through. I'll just round out my cool down lap. And so, finally done with the tight tracks, at least for a little while. Move on to Spa, and then Belgium, and then France, Germany. Although Nürburgring is a technical track, it's just a little more open. Can let these cars run a little more freely. Swiss Grand Prix, like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with Bremgarten, but I know there's a lot of fast sections, so I have to do a little bit of track learning and get up to speed there and see how that track is. And then Monza, of course, a really fast track as well, especially with the configuration we'll be using here. And then the Spanish Grand Prix, that's one track. Doesn't exist yet, but I know it is a city street track, so would round out the season on a really tight one as well. But we'll come here and park it in pit lane and just see the final finishing results. Just park it up here. Get out of the car. All right, so taking a look at the finishing results, Stirling Moss wins it. So not bad. Ahead of Kling and Fangio in third place. So Fangio finishing third, which is good for me in the championship hopes. That means he's not going to have a straight season of wins, at least so far. Ascari finishing fourth, Gonzalez in fifth, Farini in sixth. Farina, and that could have been where I finished. Realistically, at one point I was fighting with all three of these guys, Castellati and Berra, but finishing ninth position, lead lap, which is a bonus, I guess. Only one car dropping out, Brooks there with an ignition problem, so no real attrition in this Grand Prix. So we'll take a look here at the points, and so Fangio still in the lead, although not winning that Grand Prix, is 14 points ahead of Moss with 12, and Ascari in third with 9. Kling down there with 6 points, not scoring in the first round, but picking up some points here. And Gonzalez rounding out the folks that scored in the last Grand Prix with 5, and there I am in 6th place with 2 points. So holding on, I guess, scoring in the first round, but not scoring in this Monaco Grand Prix. Next, we'll be heading to Spa, though, and I'm really excited for that. That's going to be fun in these cars. So I hope you enjoyed. I know it might not have been the most exciting Grand Prix, and I certainly made a lot of mistakes again, but it was fun racing. So see you again next time.